Hello and welcome to episode 130 of Controller Club, the friendly face gaming space, a podcast where three, sometimes four, friends from three different continents share in one love, and that is video games. My name is Kleinfeld, and alongside me today, I'll say it, three of my best friends in the whole wide gaming world. First, coming to us from across the pond, it is the digital art daredevil himself, wearing a very nice green jumper, very like emerald green.
Yeah.
Tom Drew. Tom, how are you doing? What's going on? How is life? Have you recovered from our Arcane binge?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Maybe, I'm still in recovery mode, I would say. Yeah, it was a kind of a double whammy this weekend of seeing Wicked and then going straight
Oh,
into the last act of Arcane. So a lot of different emotions this weekend, I guess. But we're gonna unpack that. It's gonna be therapy this episode. It's gonna be fun.
it's funny you bring up Wicked because I've had the I don't know if it's the pleasure, but over the last couple of months, every time I've gone and seen a movie, which is quite a lot, they've played the Wicked trailer and I've developed this almost Pavlovian response to that final note in the trailer, which is like the last note of the movie, where I cry every time. They can just play that note and I cry. And so in the theater, I know it's coming. I've never seen Wicked before, but I'm like, we're near the end of the movie. It has to be happening. I'm building, like I can feel it. It's just like it's inside me. And then all of a sudden she hits it and every ounce of air escaped my lungs. I gasped. It was incredible. Next up, it is journalist extraordinaire, the Australian abroad, saying that we North Americans are just too depressed. We're spreading Christmas out too long. Lauren Rouse. Lauren, what's going on? How are you?
Yeah, it's the angry Australian here to cut down all your joy because yeah, the Christmas lights are up. It's not yet December, so that's a tradition I need to get used to. But I've also seen Wicked, and I happened to watch Wicked and this last batch of Arcane episodes back to back. So you can imagine what kind of state I was in on Friday night.
Yeah, that's a lot. That is a lot of emotions. We at Controller Club will not cover your therapy bill, but we may support you along your journey here, Laura Gross. Next up, a very special guest, the number one Paramore fan in the world, friend of the show, someone I met in Notting Hill, London, England, funnily enough. Shantelle Santos. Shantelle, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us. Maybe just to get us started, introduce yourself to the audience. Who the heck are you?
Well, you said it. I'm Paramore's number one fan. And it's 7 a.m. here, or 7:30 a.m. So it's quite early. So my brain is scattered, but I also am really emotional about Arcane. So that is all that's on my brain. Arcane. I haven't seen Wicked, but Arcane is on the brain.
Is Wicked on the calendar? Is that something that you have any interest in?
I will watch it, but I've just been seeing all the memes. I've been seeing what's like Ariana holding Cynthia's finger.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah,
Laura knows
I
what you're
don't know
talking
what that
about,
is.
though.
Yeah, my favorite edit of that was like someone making it like the Sistine Chapel, where it's just their fingers like being held. It's funny. Go
That's
check it
good.
out.
Crazy.
That is good. If you did not know, we are not talking about Wicked today. On today's show, we continue and I guess close out Arcane month, an entire month of Arcane here on the show with a review of episodes 7 through 9 of season 2, the last 3 episodes of Arcane ever? Question mark. We'll get into that. But before we get into the actual review of everything, we're going to do as we usually do and ask the question, what have we been playing over the last week or so? Shantelle, I don't know how much of a gamer you are. So have you been playing anything recently? Or has it just been Arcane?
I'm like a mild gamer. Can I
Okay.
say mild gamer? I recently finished A Plague's Tale, which was a lot of
Oh,
fun. It's
yeah.
I mean it's a couple of years old, but I only recently got into it, and I think I was playing it like every day after work for like 2 weeks. So finished that last week, and that's all I've been playing though. So everything is Arcane.
Okay, I like it. Plague's Tale fun. Two words I don't know if I would pair together. That's
Yeah,
not the happiest game either. Do you
no.
have any interest in playing the sequel now? I haven't touched the sequel. I've done the original one, but the second one I think came out like a year ago, so it's fresh off the presses if you want it.
I think I will play the second one. When I can be bothered, because I thought about I was like maybe I'll play League, and then I've never played League before, and I was like I can't do it. I'm not good at it. So I will probably go to Plague Sale too.
Okay, I like it. Lauren Rouse, what have you been getting up to in the world of digital entertainment over the last week?
Um, Look, not a lot. I think it has been again similarly consumed by Arcane situation, but I am clearly mentally unwell because I decided to start rewatching HBO's The Last of Us. Um, I guess because I like needed something to fill the void when Arcane was done, so I'm just going to go back to my comfort shows, and yeah, it's really good. But as again, just making me really like emotional, and I just I'm only on episode 2, so the best is
Have
yet.
you touched that show since it came out? Like, have you done a rewatch before?
I don't think I have because it's so special to me. I only ever want to do it at times when I can be like present and really commit to like giving it the time and space it deserves. So I haven't had a lot of that time since it came out, and so now I'm just like going through it slowly. I'm also this is like so masochist, but I'm like listening to our podcast reviews after I watch each episode just to be like, what did we say about this? So that's nice. If you want to
Nearly
go
100
listen to
episodes
those,
ago.
we have those in the back catalog on Controller Club.
I'm sure we'll have to put those back out or like put them back on socials when season 2 starts next year because it's going to happen. Tom, what are you getting up to? Any games?
Yeah, a couple games. So our video game book club discussion on New Game Plus this month is Cult of the Lamb. So I've gone ahead of that. For once, I've actually beaten the game right like ahead of the deadline, which is insane. So I won't go into like that because we're going to talk about it next episode probably. But because I had a bit of extra time on my hands, I was like, let's go back into the backlog. What have I not finished? So today I went back and completed Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, which is if you don't know it, I talked about it. I think a couple months ago at this point, but it's basically like a spiritual kind of successor or inspired heavily by Jet Set Radio. So you're basically just going around town graffitiing different places in a city basically and skating and grinding on rails and all this sort of stuff. And it's good. Like I think the best part of it is that the style, like the art style's incredible, like the cell shaded animation and designs are really eye catching and are just gorgeous to be honest. The soundtrack's really good. I do think the gameplay is a little I wish I had a little bit more depth. Like it is kind of like you press a button, you do like a 360 or whatever. So I wish there was a bit more like I just wish there were more tricks you could do basically because it's really fun to traverse around the world. I just want to look even more stylish doing it. But if you're like into like skating games or like I know you are, Klein. Like I would say, like give it a try if it's on sale. Like it's fun. It's like it's a fun little jaunt through this like really colorful world essentially. So that's been what I've been doing this week.
It's funny, Tom, that you bring up my propensity for skating games because the way you're describing it, you're like, I wish it had a little more depth. I wish I could do cooler stuff. It's the Tony Hawk remasters. They're just sitting there for you.
I mean,
They're
maybe
they're
I'll
pretty
have to
good. You
do
can
it.
do some cool things in that. The only game that I have, and I've talked about it like every week since it came out, so I'm not going to go too in depth. Still playing Dragon Age. Just absolutely in love. This morning, literally, an hour I guess before we started this podcast, had my first kiss with one of my companions, and it's happening. Me and the sexy, just tall, dark, and handsome Griffin Tamer Davrin. We are falling in love. It is glorious. It's amazing. He has this little Griffin named Asan, who's really the reason I'm trying to pair up with Davrin because I get to hang out with Asan more. And he's just adorable. He's like a golden retriever. He's just looking up at you like, oh, what are you doing? And we smooched. It was great. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. I'm pretty sure if this follows like other BioWare games, I'm going to have to say goodbye to some of these companions because like basically how these games usually work is you make friends with all of them, you smooch a couple of them, and then at the end you go on some big suicide mission and people are going to die and they rip your heart out. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm really enjoying myself. My little love story.
Wow, getting attached to people and then them suddenly dying. Why does that sound familiar?
Hey, Lauren, we'll get into that. I got some theories. Speaking of, that's what we've been playing. Let's get into why you are here, the meat and potatoes of the show, our Arcane Season 2 Act 3 review. I will pass the hosting chair over to Lauren Rouse. Take it away, Lauren. take us to the world of Runeterra. Let's go.
That's right. We're back for potentially the last time. Arcane Season 2, Act 3. All of the episodes are now out from this series. There are only 2 seasons, which is very sad. So that means, like we talked about last week, they had a lot to cover in 3 episodes, but they did it. The story has come to an end. So I just wanted to, before we get into the plot specifics, just ask you guys, firstly, what was your viewing experience like watching these episodes as a viewer? I know personally I am someone who needs to know exactly what happens immediately. Otherwise, my social media feed will spoil it for me. So I was staying up till midnight on Saturday night, whatever night it was, to watch it. And I just sat there in the dark of my room and watched them back to back. And I think I said like 4 words through the entirety of my watching. It was either oh shit or fuck yes. So that's about how my experience went. But what was it for you guys? What was your viewing experience like? What are your general thoughts of this last act?
Yeah, well, I couldn't watch them until last night, and I had to avoid all social media because as soon as I like anything on Twitter or TikTok, I get fed edits, I get fed all the spoilers. So I hopped onto Twitter and TikTok last night and was immediately fed with like all the spoilers I would have gotten if I hadn't seen the episodes. So yeah, I sat in the dark in this room and watched all 3 episodes and just laid there for 2 hours afterwards. And then my sister walked in and she's like, "Why are you bedrotting? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, I'm in pain." So my experience was just pain, lots of pain. I'm hurt. I have lots of feelings. Yeah.
That's okay. We're here to hash it out. We're all in this together. How was it for you, Tom?
Yeah, kind of similar, I guess. I was trying to avoid everything. I even like unsubscribed to the Arcane Reddit for a bit because I was like getting posts like either spoiler tags, so I didn't see anything, but it was like just showing up. So I unfollowed it, but I still had stuff to do during the day. So Reddit was like also like recommending me other Arcane subreddits that I hadn't been following, and I was like, I'm following for a reason. Why are you trying to get me back on this? I have since rejoined after seeing the episodes, but yeah, I after Wicked, I basically just binge watched. I originally was like, you know what, I'm gonna space this out. I'm gonna watch 1 episode today, and then I'll watch like another episode tomorrow, maybe, and then whatever. But no, that didn't happen. I just watched it all the way through, and it was a trip. These 3 episodes take a lot of swings, and a lot of them hit. I know this last act has been a bit like, I guess, controversial among people. Like, not everyone's happy with how it ended, but for me personally, I think it wrapped up everything that I wanted to really well, and I really am pleased with just the direction that this has gone. Even though it's completely not what I was expecting at all, in a lot of ways. But no, I adore this, and especially one of the episodes is a standout here for sure, just in terms of like the entire show. But yeah, just really good. Just really good.
What were your thoughts, Klein?
Well, I did not get the chance to stay up until midnight on Friday night. So I woke up Saturday morning, bright and early, and rolled over and opened up Blue Sky. And as you know, as I usually do, first thing I see is Lauren Rouse's thoughts, and she's out there posting, and they expect us to go on after that. And I'm like, oh no, what happened? What's going on? So I only got to watch 2 yesterday morning. Because I was helping put up Christmas lights for my apartment complex in the morning. And I was like, it'll be okay. It'll be fine. I'll watch the 2. And I'm like, I don't know, like usually able to keep things to and not get too excited about having to hit play on the next thing. I was so upset when I finished the 2nd episode and like had to go and do something else for a number of hours before I could come back and finish it. But I did. I continue to think that this show is genuinely one of the best, not just animated TV shows ever. I think that is maybe one of the best adaptations. I think that this last kind of batch of episodes, I have in my notes as we'll go through, I have so many questions in each episode where I'm like, they're doing a lot. How are they going to wrap this up? There's a lot of loose ends. I don't know about this. I'm really not interested about this particular aspect. Every single thing They wrapped it up. It may not be as in nicely of a bow as I would have liked. I do believe, and I think we'll keep coming back to the sentiment, I think this could have benefited from another season. Just like one more season, because this season and this for last act happens really fast. They do it in a way where I am not sitting there by the end going, ooh, I don't know if that hit. It just it just feels like it was a little quick. So I would have liked to, some of the moments that we'll get to that were like, there's so many just like devastating moments and euphoria, like they span the whole gamut in these last 3 episodes. I would have liked to have sat with those a little bit longer, and sat with some of the character decisions a little bit longer. But they did with, I think, what they had, and they did a really, really freaking good job at it. I think that this Arcane, I'm going to continue to bash the drum. And like, I converted one person yesterday from the direct where I was like, you have to watch this. And they said, okay. And they clicked play on episode 1, because I think that for so many people in my life in particular who have no interest in this, they would adore this. Like, they would just absolutely love it. And so I think, like, as a community, we gotta like keep bashing the Arcane bucket and just as loud as we can in the town square, because this is like, it's so special.
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing a bit of like Victor's work sometimes, because it's like I was that person who was like, I'm not into animated shows really. I don't care about League of Legends. I'm not interested. And then Zach, who was on the show last week, told me, no, you should watch it. Gave it a go, and like instantly it's become like one of my favorite shows ever. And so you just want to kind of give that to people, because it's like, I know you're going to like this. You just have to trust me. But people can't sign, like, Arcane is actually fairly niche, despite the kind of hype that it has, and particularly in our circles, how much we love it. You kind of forget that people have no idea what this is. They might be like, they don't care about League of Legends and things like that. So it's just so much more than that. And I really do hope that it like continues to gain momentum, even like now that it's finished, and that we get to see more. But we can put that discussion at the end. Let's get into the episodes. So we pick things up in episode 7. We get to find out what happened to Echo after he went into the anomaly in episode 3. We didn't get to see what happened to him in the most recent act. And so we pick up with him, and he has entered like an alternate universe. And in this universe, like, hex tech was never invented. So people are alive in this universe who weren't in the other. Like Benzo, who was kind of Echo's mentor, he's alive. Vander and Silco are alive. And Powder grew up to be Powder. She didn't grow up to become Jinx. So she is kind of completely different from the version of Jinx that we know. She doesn't really have all that trauma. And we also find that Heimerdinger is there, and he has been there waiting for Echo for a while. He was also spat out in the same universe, but at a different time. So he's just kind of been hanging out, living his life. And then Echo shows up, and they decide, okay, how are we going to get out of this world that doesn't have hex tech? We need an anomaly to get out of here. And they like put together a plan. But let's get first impressions on this kind of idea of we're going to another universe in Arcane. That's kind of crazy. And it kind of was a big shift in momentum for the series. We almost have this like, I guess, like bottle episode where you just get to see this nice little life play out. And it was really nice. So Klein, you're Echo's #1 fan. How did you feel about this for our boy?
I thought this was so cool. I think by the end of the episode, I could say that this is one of my favorite episodes of the series. There's only 18 episodes, so there's really not that many, but I loved this. I do have written down in my notes, this was one of the things in the first 5 minutes. I wrote down immediately with this other reality stuff, I'm thinking, how are they going to land the plane on this? Because it like, they just completely opened the door on a whole lot of things in season 2, and this is just one of the new ones. And I think they did a pretty good job with it. I loved seeing like getting this side of Echo, because we had really only gotten this kind of Echo in the first 3 episodes of season 1. Everything after that was very like warrior Echo and hardened Echo, and like and really trying, like, he had been kind of beaten down by some of the things and calloused almost that he'd had to experience. And so getting to go back and revert to what that Echo would have been had he not built up that shell in this like other universe, I thought was really, really cool. At first, I didn't know how to feel about the the Powder Echo, I'll call it relationship. Like there's a connection there that I didn't really necessarily feel in season 1 or in any of his other brief appearances in season 2, but really in season 1 when Jinx and Echo were crossing paths quite a bit. And I'm now excited to go back and rewatch because I bet you the seeds are laid there. Because when they were young, they had a connection for sure, but it kind of disintegrates. I think I really liked the kind of romantic to and fro that they go through in this episode, and it felt very, I don't know, it felt very Spider-Verse-y to me. They have a very Gwen Miles feeling relationship. They even sit on a balcony or
They
sit
have
on
that
like the
shot.
top of the
Yeah.
building and lean. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. And I know that, like, speaking to that point about Echo and like Jinx or Powder, I think it's actually a really popular fan theory that people want them to be together, or that maybe they've kind of hinted at it in the lore and people really do want to see that. So there was a bit of wish fulfillment for those fans in this episode, that you got to see it play it out, or you got to see it confirmed, whatever, however you take Arcane as canon or not. Is it canon? I don't know.
I think
That's a good question.
it
That's a
was
Courtney question.
yeah, it's a Courtney question. I think it was considered for a bit, but then a lot of people have said like this breaks a lot of the canonicity. Like,
Yeah.
so I don't know at this point. I'm kind of like of the camp that it's non-canon, and that's fine. Like, I think it's okay to have this like self-contained thing. But yeah, it's weird how they. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I have, as of 2 days ago, from the League of Legends Reddit, they have been updating champions bios to make Arcane canon.
Oh,
Hmm.
interesting. All right.
The power.
We will
the
have
show
to
has.
revisit that at the end of this discussion. What did you think, Chantelle, of this kind of like nice little, it was like a nice little coming of age story, wasn't it? Just like giving some time. It was Echo's time to shine.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, after the episode before that, I was kind of expecting going straight back into kind of the drama, but having this was kind of like a nice break. Um, and it was really, I think seeing Powder grow up was so nice, like especially after everything that we've seen her turn into with Jinx, and like even the small little bits of the episode, like having Powder had like a pink strand kind of dedicated to
So good.
Vi,
Yeah,
which
well,
was
Vi's dead in this universe. I forgot to mention, but yeah, she died in the explosion that from that very first episode. So that was sad.
yeah. So, and I also noticed that Vander had like a Vi tattoo on his hand. So it's just like all the small, like little details that kind of like killed me seeing what Powder could have been. So it was really nice to kind of see that alternate universe, even though Vi, my love, is not there.
Yeah, and I also noticed like some people saying that like even though it's like great to see what Powder became, she wasn't really like the whole thing was like she wasn't really living up to her full potential that she could have if she had become Jinx. So it was interesting that even though this was like I don't know like a nice version of the character or I guess like a mentally healthy version of the character, however you want to whatever you want to call it, she just still wasn't everything that she could be, which was interesting. Tom, what did you think?
Yeah, like just following off of that point, like it kind of mirrors the scene between Victor and Jinx, where he's kind of saying like you're not living up to your full. You could like give so much to this community, and obviously that doesn't happen in the end. But like there's that kind of parallel thing with both of these versions of Powder. I thought was really interesting, and it's nice to see like her, even if Vander's wanting her to like push more, there is that kind of aspect to it where she is, because she's paired with Echo, who are both very like technologically like minded. I really like that pairing, in that they could like build off of each other and like allow Jinx to see what she could become. And then it is also like the tragic nature of it, where like you compare these versions of the characters to the other characters. Like it is crazy to me that like in episode 7 of season 1, like they are like at odds with each other. Like that bridge fight
Well, you get
happens.
flashbacks to that moment,
Yeah.
right? In season 1, like you get that almost like trauma vision from Echo, where he looks at her and he sees her laying on the bridge, and it's like shit. Like, yeah, this is not your Powder in any way.
Yeah, so the juxtaposition is like kind of insane, but I thought they built the relationship between them in this episode so well, and where it culminates is just it's perfect. Like I kind of said like in the the intro. I think this episode of the three, I mean, I love all of these episodes, but this just like as a self-contained, it reminds me of like, episode 3 of The Last of Us. It's just like such a nice self-contained story.
Mhm.
And it's just, but it's also so
No
sad.
real big action sequence I
No.
noted. Like, this is what the first Arcane episode really that doesn't have like, okay, kick on the 21 pilots and let's do some sick, cool action. Like, it really, the closest thing you get to that is the Heimerdinger song.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like a
What a
montage.
great song.
And shout out the Heimerdinger song. As I was gonna say, when it started, I'm like, this sounds an awful lot like that little cutie. And it was him. I loved it. I want the album.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually the music in this whole episode was really nice. Even like I went and listened to the soundtrack, like the score part last night, and it's just really nice. Like even when Echo's just walking through the streets and he's seeing how much like Zorn has changed, and it's just got such a vibe. And I always for some reason like I think I associate Echo with like music because I guess like whenever he shows up on screen there's always like some cool music playing, and so I think that really suited his character. The other main thing that happens in this episode, of course, we have the lovely kind of like uh, montage with them building this device that is going to help send Echo home. And when they like crack their machine, it's time travel. So we finally get to see how Echo gets his Z drive in the game, which is this device that allows him to go back to a maximum of 4 seconds. And as Courtney was telling us, like that's what he's known for in League of Legends, just being able to have that power, and we get to see the origin of that here. How do we feel about Echo's time travel? Very exciting.
It's crazy. And like the scene where you see him figure out the limit, where like Heimerdinger's like eyeballs start exploding. I was like,
His head starts tearing
I was
apart.
like, what the hell? This is crazy. But yeah, I thought that was so cool. And the way they like use the time travel more like as this act goes is really sick. So it's nice to see him have this really cool ability. And yeah, like I said, the way they use this, not just in this episode, but the ones ahead, I think is so creative and so fun. So yeah, nice to see our boy get some powers finally.
I thought that when you guys were talking to Courtney, I wasn't on the episode, but she talked about the time travel, and I remember I've played very little League, but I know I've seen him played before, and everyone else's powers from the League games, it made sense to me of how you like make it make sense without it being sort of like bent around and gimmicky and kind of almost silly in the TV show. Like Vi's got the gauntlets, that makes sense. Just give her these big gloves. Caitlyn can shoot things. That translates. I don't know. I didn't know how you were going to do this. I thought they did a fantastic job of like narratively, emotionally, just like tying it all together and having it make sense. It made me, Tom, one of the things that everyone's like, I want an Overwatch TV show. I want an Overwatch movie. But one of the things that has stopped me from thinking that is like, how are you going to make any of these like powers like feel emotionally engaging in any way? It made me think that like someone like a Tracer could work in a TV show. It made me think that, okay, whatever this team is doing afterwards, Blizzard's got to back up the money truck and be like, hey guys, because I think they could do it. I really do.
I don't know what language that was, but yes, very good. Shantelle, anything to add?
Well, I thought when I saw the time travel stuff, I was like, oh my God, am I going to get confused? Because there's like multiverse, there's time travel. And when you have those in like TV shows, sometimes you can get, depending on how they can like execute it, sometimes it doesn't make any sense. But I think Arcane is so good at just kind of piecing everything together to make it kind of like flow properly and everything works, even if the concept is confusing in like some aspects, but like everything worked. And I was like, oh my God, time travel. This is great. I mean, even if it was only 4 seconds, I was like, he could do it. This is amazing. And then
They
on
kept
the
it
other end,
simple,
like,
didn't they?
yeah, it wasn't like they can go back like days and years. It was like 4 seconds. I was like, I can work with that. That's fine. That works. And then on the other end, like Jace was just dying. Like he was just going through hell. I was like, oh, Echo's living this really like he's discovered like time travel. He can like he's in this like alternate universe, and Jace is just suffering. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I saw a meme that was like, in this episode, Echo's in like Life is Strange. Meanwhile, Jace is just in Elden Ring. And I was like, that's accurate. Before we talk about Jace, though, I just want to have a small eulogy for Heimerdinger, who we lost in this episode. He seemingly sacrificed himself to operate the machine so that Echo could get home. And then I guess it like eviscerated him. Not really sure, because we don't actually see it happen. We just see that he's gone in the next frame. So do we think he died? Or do we think he may have also just been taken somewhere else?
This is the question. I did see, and I can't like fact check this right now because the source that I had on this has been taken down, so to take this with a grain of salt. But I saw that there was an interview with someone involved with Arcane, and they said that Heimerdinger might be still alive. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I like to think that he's still around. It's the idea of him doing that for Echo and then just like deciding, okay, the science stuff is over, I'm just going to become a bard for the rest of my life now. I think I like that idea. So I hope he's still around, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay, well, we won't see, I guess, but maybe we'll get some more clarification from someone eventually. I'll see if I can find the quote.
There are a lot of, we'll get to this at the end, but there are a lot of champions who I guess die in this season, but I think it's a bit of, but did they really? And that could be a case of them just trying to leave things open-ended for if it's being canon to the games. I choose to think that Heimerdinger is still out there. That's why I just think it would be nice if he was. He did live a long life. He did say that. He's a yordle, so he lives a long time. But in my headcanon, he's out there somewhere.
I like to think that he like is still in that universe. Is like almost sacrificed himself, quote unquote, to just like he's like, I'm happy here. You can go back to your home, but I'm good. I'll just stay here. And he disappeared somewhere. He's off playing music on that really cool guitar. Like just like every little thing. He couldn't just have a normal guitar. He had to have this like crazy electronic robot guitar. Yeah, I'd like to think he's there. He's still there.
Yeah, writing music or singing more songs, I hope.
Yeah,
Because
he's got a hit
I feel
album.
like if you don't see, yeah, and if you don't see like him actually die, then I think he's still there. He's still somewhere.
All right, jumping over to Jace. So as we said, he is having a very different experience in the anomaly. He kind of gets transported to a world where Hextech essentially led to the end of Piltover, and it's covered in that kind of multicolored corruption. I've been trying to describe this for days. I don't know how to describe it other than to just go look at it in the show, because it's like slimy and yet also like crystallized and really pretty. So props to Fortiche.
There's like a fungus element too, as well. Almost. Like it's got like a fungal feeling.
Totally. So he is there, and basically, everybody's dead, and he kind of tries to get to the heart of the city to, I guess, maybe get home, or just sort of that's where he needs to go. But on the way, he falls down like a ravine and like breaks his leg. And this is where we kind of see him change from like that character in Act 1 to who he comes back as in Act 2. And he just kind of goes mad down there. Like his leg is broken. He doesn't really have much access to food. And there's these creepy like robot things in the shadows watching him. Really, really effective montage that gets this across the line. And then he eventually builds himself a leg brace, which I thought was like a nice mirroring of like Victor, who had a imperfection with his leg in Arcane. So now Jace has an issue with his leg. And he kind of climbs his way out of this ravine. I was thinking at this time like that it was that scene out of Dark Knight Rises where they have to climb the wall with no rope, and it felt very satisfying when he got to the top. So what do we think of Jace's reality and this future, this dark future that he is visiting, and what he had to do to get there? Shantelle, take us away.
I feel like every time his scenes kind of popped up, like the juxtaposition between Echo's reality or Echo's alternate universe versus this, it was like kind of jarring. I was like, oh god, there's this like other side where Piltover is essentially just gone, and it was kind of nice to see. I mean, like it starts seeing him like kind of like down there, but it was nice to see after his like episodes where he wasn't really like living, or felt like he felt kind of sad and depressed, and seeing that he had the will to kind of like get up there even though his leg was broken. It was like nice to see that he like was able to push himself and kind of develop from where he was at that point a couple of episodes ago. So it was a bit jarring to see, but it was like really cool to see his like determination to kind of go to where he was trying to get to.
Yeah, I think the thing for me that stood out was that, like you said, Chantel, the juxtaposition is so harsh that it really highlights, like, you know, this Piltover is like completely destroyed, but then the one that Echo and Powder are in is like the Undercity and Topside are like, you know, in harmony essentially. It's basically like a perfect kind of world in that respect, and it's nice to see like that there is this kind of like a nice community in that respect. And then you contrast to Jason, he's just having the absolute worst time ever. I think it was interesting watching this, and then you are left with more questions at the end of this, because it does explain some of those questions you have, like why did Jace kind of go mad, why did he kill Victor in the previous act. And you kind of like buy in of like, okay, he went crazy. And like they do a really good job of like hammering that home. Like you said, Lauren, the montage I think really hammered home, pun intended, he's got a hammer. That he like just how like oppressive that world is on his mind and his psyche. Like you can just watching him go insane almost makes you feel like you're going a bit mad, like watching this man just like completely struggle in this world where he's completely alone. So you kind of buy that like explanation of like, okay, he just went crazy and that's why he killed Victor. But then there is a bit more to it, which they reveal in episode 9. So I think they did a really good job of like setting up those expectations and then completely subversing them a few episodes later. So yeah, I'm glad it like explained stuff with him, but then didn't completely like go back on his character like you might have thought they might have done when he makes those decisions in Act 2. So yeah, just poor guy. I don't know. I don't know what to say. He's just going through it.
Yeah, Tom, you hit the nail on the head there with my number one thought for this whole sequence was that he gets dropped in there, it was another instance of me asking a question going, ooh, I don't know what we're doing here. How are we going to get to where we were at the end of Act 2 with this character? And I thought they did a fantastic job of showing exactly how and why he ended up turning into the character we get at the end of Act 2 and then into the rest of this. And I thought that this like just back and forth between the Echo world and this world, it's almost like a scale of hex tech where like you have on one end no hex tech was ever invented at all, and you have on the other end they went all in on it, and here's as far, like they went as far as they could possibly take it, and this is what the world ends up with. And then I guess spoiler for the last like couple episodes, but like we end up sort of in the middle of those two. Like we take the lessons of both realities almost and forge a path forward. Whether that means good fortunes for all, we don't necessarily know at the end of the season. But like I thought this was a great job of kind of showing the scale of ultimately what this show outside of the characters was about, was this emergence of a technology and people wanting to take advantage of that. And so this was a great job of kind of like showing what that means from like the worst to the absolute best, if you want to call Echo's world that.
Like we were sort of saying, this episode does introduce those two big concepts, the time travel, the multiverse. And I think this was like a really effective way of presenting both those kinds of ideas. But like you were saying, Client, I think part of me is there being like, wouldn't it have been nice to just sit here a little bit longer or see a different universe or see characters enter other universes and take lessons like Echo did? And that's where I think I've been thinking about this a lot. But, you know, there was rumors that it was supposed to be 5 seasons. That was apparently not the case. The showrunners have said, we told the story that we wanted to tell. This was always where we wanted to end up. I do feel, though, that maybe they needed, like, in their mind, they might have had more time.
One more season. Like to me, this Echo and Jace stuff, you could have done a whole season with that arc, with like jumping back and forth, and then gone on and done this kind of like final end game sort of esque battle like we get in these last 2 episodes. This to me is same. It's the same with the Mel stuff. Those 3 things feel like the number one biggest plot beats that they had to truncate down.
Yeah, because it does feel like, obviously at the center of this series we have Jinx and Vi, but sometimes they're a little bit overshadowed by these other massive plot points, which I think they wouldn't have been if, like you say, they had another season and just had the time to like to spend with them. But let's go into the next episode. So this is kind of the big setup before the final episode. We're paving the way to war in this episode, and we also do pick up on another plot point that hasn't been seen for a minute, which is Mel. We know that she was trapped with the Black Rose, and we will kind of last see her, I guess, use some kind of power to break out. And this episode proves that, yeah, she does have powers. We were right. She used some kind of power to save them from the explosion at the beginning of the season. And yeah, she is, I guess, unlocked her mage powers that she's been harboring all this time, which was the secret that Ambessa was trying to hide. Tom, you're Mel's number one fan. How did you feel about her going champion mode?
Oh man, I mean, like, it's funny seeing like a character like Mel get a glow up when she doesn't need a glow up, and just like get another incredible design. So yeah, it's awesome, and to see her get powers is really sick. The way that like her hair glows golden as well as her eyes and stuff, I thought that was like just this really sick visual. Yeah, I think it. I know this is like one of the more criticized elements of this season, but I think the way they've kind of addressed it in this episode, I thought was really well handled. And like the seeds it plants with like the Black Rose, and then how that factors into the finale. Yeah, really, really interesting stuff. Like, yeah, it's just cool. Like, it's just really cool to see it in this way.
Well, yeah, in this scene also we get to meet they don't say their name, but I think, like Courtney said, this is LeBlanc, who is the shapeshifter who runs the Black Rose, essentially. And they have come to Mel. They've captured her to be like, listen, there's going to be, I wrote it down, what was it called? A calamity, which is going to be bigger than the rune wars of the ancient times, whatever. And they're like, and we need to stop this. But Ambessa's the problem. So they're essentially trying to use Mel to put a stop to Ambessa, because otherwise this calamity is going to like wreak havoc on everything, and potentially is something that even the Black Rose can't control. So they kind of do recruit her, and it looks like she, she's just discovered she has these powers. She's kind of on her own. Having some kind of like mentor or sisterhood to be a part of is probably very appealing to her. So she kind of just like leaves this place looking really badass and like heads on back to Piltover. Had we have any thoughts on like sort of the Black Rose and this whole warning that happens with Mel?
Well, I wonder if the calamity they're talking, do we think it's like what Jace ends up seeing, like that future, like that,
Good
Victor
question.
was, I think that, Victor was going to create this whole thing of taking all over these people, and then maybe that leads to what happens with Jace's world that he inhabits. So maybe that's what they're talking about, or maybe it is something completely different, and that's what they cover in like a different show. But that to me was what I thought they were implying, at least.
I thought it was Victor's thing as well, but you could be right. It could be something else.
Could be.
Maybe right now it's Victor's thing, and then in a couple of years from now, they externally outside of the show itself decide, hey, maybe it wasn't, and we get the sequel series. Yeah. My only thought on the Black Rose stuff is just that this is the part of the series that I connected across the 2 seasons the least with. I think this is this to me should have been covered in like they needed more time to introduce all of this and make it happen, because if you add up from like the moment Black Rose is introduced until their very final scene and all that Mel stuff, it's probably less than, I don't know, 10 minutes maybe of screen time across the season, and it's just like it's not enough to like, it is a very, very, very big concept. I think they did okay. It's probably the weakest part of the season for me, of just like landing the plane on it. I really like where we leave Mel. I just wish I had bought into that journey a bit more.
I personally felt very gratified that I thought she was a champion from the beginning. So when that happened, I was like, yes. I also feel like she's going to be in League of Legends, right? Like this was part of the reason that she's been introduced this way. Is like
she's got cool powers. Like, of course she is.
When she does, I'll stop playing.
That's how you get someone. What do you think, Shantelle?
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Klein. Like, I feel like for me, the season of Black Rose was something I wasn't really connecting with as much, but I feel like it's also like, maybe I don't have that lore that like Courtney had. so I didn't really understand it too much without that context. So I like Mel is sick. She's so cool, but I feel like I wish I had more time to kind of like flesh it out so I could understand it a little bit more. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably what they were trying to do with the potential 5 seasons they were like announcing. And maybe it will pop up in the future. But yeah, it was. I felt good about where she like landed. Like, but the Black Rose thing was confusing for me when I first like saw it.
I do truly believe that this was a setup for something in the future, and if we do get more shows in this world, it's going to be Black Rose related. I love the idea that there's this secret conspiracy kind of group pulling all the strings.
Totally. Like it's a really cool idea having this thing and baking it into like the Ambessa side of things and stuff like that. It just like I needed whole episodes devoted to it as
Yeah.
opposed to these really tiny little snippets.
Yeah, and Bessa does. She was kind of introduced late in season 1, but she has like a big part, obviously, in this season. We've already seen. And in episode 8, we learn like kind of her plan. She lost her like right hand man in the previous episode with the fight with Warwick, so she is like grieving all her soldiers, and basically she wants the ultimate weapon because she's fighting with the Black Rose here, and so she asks Singe. She's like, "Hey, we agreed. You were going to cure death. Where's my army?" And Singe's plan now is to blend Warwick's blood with Victor and do that final evolution thing that he talked about. And this is bad news because, yeah, Victor now is revived. He is not actually dead after Jace killed him the first time. And he says that, yeah, I can give you your immortal army for anybody who's willing. You've just got to get me to this hex gate because otherwise I'm going to die. And so this is kind of like setting up the whole war that's to come. It's like their goal is to get Victor inside past all the Piltover defenses to this anomaly. And then he can take it from there, basically. So we now have this dichotomy, which is the Noxians and Victor teaming up and like Jason or everyone else in Piltover trying to stop them. It's really cool. I have to say, I didn't see it coming that Victor would be the villain. I really didn't. I know that in the game, like he was saying, like the Glorious Evolution, he is kind of like a strange dude who we hadn't really seen before. I do think they get to that rather quickly. But I didn't see that coming, that dynamic, and I actually thought it was really cool because I thought we were just going to be like, I really thought the fight was going to be Piltover versus Zorn, and it wasn't that. But yeah, am I alone in that?
I mean, I'm with you. I think that like I didn't see it coming. I thought that they made him actually a very strong, imposing threat that I bought into why he was doing it. I thought a lot of this episode felt very Infinity War, like this kind of like looming doom. It felt, say what you will about the last season of Game of Thrones, I think that there's that one episode right before everything kind of pops off. It's like called like the night before or something in season 8 that I think is one of the strongest of the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones. And that's what this felt like, where it is very much everything is happening. Like we know something terrible is coming, and it's just like, how is everyone going to put themselves into the place that they want to be in, whether that's a good or bad place, we don't know. To prepare themselves for this kind of like impending doom. And I thought Victor being the Doom, being the Thanos, was pretty like effective. And where we leave him with, we'll get into it in episode 9 with Jace and him. Like I thought they bring it back around, and it all made sense again.
Yeah, I was the same. I thought this was really gonna be like more focus on like Jinx, and like that was gonna be like that was gonna be what it was again. Which we'll get to that in episode 9. But I think Ambessa and Victor just as a duo is so imposing. I love like Ambessa's performance, and then when you have Victor as well, when he finally gets like that more robotic voice, it's just so like sinister and cool.
Scary.
It's scary as hell. And then he gets the design that's similarish to League. Like he's not full robot, I guess, but kind of this like more of a cyborg kind of guy, I guess. But like I just love the design of him. Like his face is like split asunder, and then he's got like the cool like mask in between. It's just like so cool, man. So yeah, I really bought in, and this show does a really good job of like changing the dynamics between characters and where their allegiances lie really effectively. So I completely bought in that like in the previous act like Victor was trying to help people, and now he wants to like take over all of their minds. So yeah, it was cool. It felt very like Evangelion-ish to me. His kind of motivations. So yeah, I thought it was really cool what they did with his character this arc.
I feel like the same sentiment as you guys. Like I wasn't expecting him at all to kind of be like the big villain. It was like I thought it'd be Zorn and Piltover, like a final showdown. But seeing him kind of like, I guess it was like him losing Sky that kind of led him to this downward spiral. So it was kind of like, it was interesting to see like him turn into this, and that last conversation he has with Sky where he was like, I'll miss our talks, and she fully says something like, no you won't, because she knows that his humanity is like fully gone. It was like that moment. I was like, oh, you are like the villain in this. Like it's scary.
Yeah, his final evolution is to evolve past human, because humans are imperfect, which is just like such a fascinating thematic. But also, like, we kind of get a taste of like Victor's power here is really immense, because he can create, like we saw him sort of in his old version create these people who were like still themselves, but they were a bit enlightened. They were very peaceful, and now we have these like they're not people at all. They're like robots or like emotionless kind of cyborg things, and they attack Jason Mel. Just one of them attacks Jason Mel in the council room, and it puts up like such a fight. Like this was a really great fight scene because we get to finally see Mel's powers in action, which was really cool. But it like made me super worried because I was like, this is just one of them. What is like a whole army of them going to do? So I think that was really effective. And also Jace uses this to basically bring Piltover and Zorn together for the first time. He says, this is what we're facing. We need to come together as a people because otherwise we're not going to win. I have thoughts about this because they kind of just go, okay, let's do it. Which is interesting because the entire, like, Arcane's entire thing has been like divides between top side and bottom, and like that's been reflected through all the characters, all of their journeys. And so then it kind of just happens. They all just come together because there's a greater threat, which, yeah, logically makes sense and I know needed to happen for the story. But I think they maybe in the whole rushing of it all, they kind of lost sight of that conflict. So it all just happened a little bit too easily. But like you say, I think that's probably something that would have been, if we had a third season, like this could have been about them sorting out their conflict, and season 3 could have been about them fighting like the Victor army. So it was really condensed here, but I wasn't 100% satisfied by that.
Yeah, happened really quick, just like a few other things in the show. It just, I understand why these people would go, okay, yeah, sure. They just didn't necessarily show me like Victor making, or not Victor, Jace making like a case. Like he has an impassioned speech, and that's kind of it. But and you would, if there is, I mean, I'm playing Dragon Age right now, and this is literally the plot of Dragon Age. It's like there's these gods coming, and we all, I know some of you don't even believe in them, but like we all got to get together and like and take them out, because if we don't, bad things are going to happen. This is one more thing. I wish we had more time. I really do.
Yeah. It's like the Dragon Age thing. It's like the Watchmen thing. There's a giant squid. It's gonna attack the world. We need to.
They make it look really cool. They make it sound really cool. I'm sitting here going, fight back a little. Like at least somebody say something.
Yeah, particularly because like the Zorn, or the people of Zorn, were oppressed by these people for so long. And also, like, I know the Noxians came in and kind of took over, and now they're not aligned with them. So maybe that's part of the reason that they were like motivated to really be like, yeah, well, we don't want to go with the Noxians. They were so horrible to us. But it did just become a little bit of a part of the plot that they were like, that needs to be diminished right now. We have bigger things to focus on, which I thought was a little bit of a shame, but like they brought it around. It just happened really quickly. Okay, there's one other major thing we need to touch on this episode. It's the Vi, Jinx, Caitlyn of it all. They are still in the show despite all this other stuff happening.
They are in the show, Lauren. In this episode, they are in the show.
That's right. So Jinx basically got locked up after the battle in episode 6, and Vi was injured, so she's been like knocked out for a few days, and she kind of learns about this and has an argument with Caitlyn, being like, no, Jinx has changed, like please just consider letting her out. Caitlyn goes and like talks to Jinx, and as expected, after like Isha's death in the previous episode, like Jinx is just like, she's lost the will to do anything. She's kind of let herself go. She's in a lot of pain, and she has this like, well, firstly, she and Caitlyn kind of come to this agreement, which is like, she's like, look, it happened, I did it, I didn't know your mum was in there, but that probably wouldn't have changed anything. And Caitlin's like, you know what? I can't hate you anymore. It's taking up too much energy. So their beef is now over. And then still in this cell, like Jinx has a conversation, I guess, with the Silco in her brain. And he kind of like talks about how killing is a cycle and, you know, it's a thing that's going to happen. It's happened before you. It's going to happen after you. The only way that you can avoid it is by walking away. So interesting, because later on, Vi comes to release Jinx and says, please, like, bring your talents to the table, like help us in this war, like it'll change your story with people here, like you can rewrite what you did like you did in Zorn. And she walks away. So I think that's like part of her going on that journey of being like, I'm not going to do this anymore, too many people die. Let's just talk about Jinx at this point. What did we think about her in this episode?
I think it was cool to see kind of like Silco in her brain kind of mirror the sentiment that Vanda had in the episode before. Like, Vanda saying that you're much more than this, and there's so much of the world that you can kind of like see out there, and she kind of seeing that in like all the universes that she's a part of. It's like she is kind of destined to not be in Zorn or be in Piltover. So it was kind of sad to see where she ended up, but also like, you know, that there's more there for her as well.
Yeah, I really liked how Jinx was handled this episode. Particularly like the Silco conversation was like really needed. But I think my favorite aspect was that Caitlyn and Jinx conversation. I know a lot of people were like they didn't even address it at the end of Act 2. Like, what are they just friends now? So I'm glad that they had this like and kind of hashed it out, even though it's like there's still obviously like a bit of air of tension between the two. Like it felt like a nice resolution to, you know, an acceptance of, you know, the things that Jinx has done and Caitlyn coming to terms with that. So yeah, that was just a really nice and really well handled scene. And also like just a complete aside from that, I love the visual of Jinx's like hair all grown out. Like I think it's just such a cool like it looks so cool. Especially there's one scene where she's like lying on her back and it's like all spread out like a sun almost. Just good stuff. Just really good stuff.
That's what I was going to mention, Tom, just because I think that to me is like we've seen unhinged Jinx, but we've never seen Jinx completely unraveled. And I mean, it's a little on the nose to unravel her braids and have her laying out that, but that is her like when we get to her in this episode and the beginning of the next, like it's her at the end of her wits. Like she is no longer unhinged in a sense that she wants to cause chaos. She is just like, I'm done. Like I genuinely do not even want to be in this life anymore, let alone like a life of running or a life of like, or like this particular portion of my life. Like I just want to end it. And I thought like the hair shot is like, to me, I tried making it into our like little thumbnail we put out for each episode so hard, but it's just so hard to get her face like directly centered. It's like it's such a there's so many beautiful images I think in Arcane. I think that's what this show does really well. But this to me is just like it's haunting to look at with having just like all this hair spread out.
There is like so much about even Jinx only had a small part in this episode, but there's just so much that I love about it, particularly like you said, like she typically when she's lost people in the past, like it does fuel her trauma, but she reacts in a state of, I guess, like chaos. And in this way, it's the complete opposite. This was like Isha's was the last straw, because she'd started to build this better life for herself that was different, and then like losing this friend of hers has like completely pointed her in the opposite direction. And I also loved that like typically we'll see the mind scribbles when she's like dealing with her trauma, but this time the voice in her head was just Silco, and he was talking really calmly, and it was just such like a juxtaposition of what we have seen her experience before. And I think like that's just another way that Arcane uses these visuals and these metaphors like so effectively to like evoke a feeling that's different from the one before.
Building off of that, like the way they use, like they can't use any of that stuff here because like that's not the point of the scene, like the scribbles and stuff. So like I love the little details of like the scene where Kate and Jinx are talking, like she's picking at her nail, and like just those like small little things of like showing her like, you know, her mental state, I thought just was really effective. Like really conscious choices like that were really cool.
All right, the last thing we have to address. So When Jinx leaves, she locks Vi in the cell that she was in because she doesn't want her coming after her, which means Caitlyn has to come and unlock her from the cell, which is just like a nice little callback because that's what Caitlyn first does when she meets Vi. She frees her from jail. Anyway, and Caitlyn and Vi, they're back on. They're back on, guys. The
Are we
world
sure?
celebrated. Yeah, they have a sex scene right there in that jail cell, which is awesome. And yeah, all I was thinking is just like Caitlyn and Vi shippers, we have been so fed. Like this scene was unbelievable. What we got, I was like, it kept going. Every time I thought they were going to cut,
Lauren,
it kept going.
There's a quote out there from one of the animators who worked on this saying that's the tame, like that's the short version that they had.
Wow.
Yo.
Don't tell me that.
Mm-hmm.
Shantelle, number one Vi fan. How are you feeling?
Well, I said earlier in my notes, all I wrote were like arms, and I have back exclamation mark. Like I was like that back tattoo reveal. I was like, oh my god! I think it was like such a satisfying scene after like everything they've been through, and it was like still playful. It really showed kind of they let their walls down, even a brief moment in the prison cell. Let their walls down with each other, and it was really intimate. It was kind of like everything that us shippers needed. I felt like I needed this, especially before everything else that happens. But yeah, my main notes were arms and back, which I think is very valid.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Pretty much.
I was just surprised at you said intimate, Shantelle, and like that's like the perfect, like there's so many different ways to do these kind of scenes, and like this to me was like it was so incredibly intimate and tastefully done. And even though it was like it was hot and it was sexy and like they were like they, but at no point was I like this is too much, or like oh they're holding anything back. And like even just the way that it cuts, like where like it ultimately, like walking through the whole thing, it's just like from the beginning where they start kissing, I was like, oh finally, like the ship, like Lauren's gonna be so happy. Lauren, like and then I thought they were gonna cut, and it keeps going, and then this, like even just like the second they do end up cutting, it's like wow, like Tom, you had mentioned the word intentionality just a few minutes ago. There is nothing in this show, including this, every cut, everything is so intentionally done. And I think that this sequence to me is like one of the perfect examples of that. And I don't know. Like, can we give an award for the sex scene of the year? Like, I don't know. Like, I genuinely think it was beautiful, which sometimes that is not the case in these sort of sequences. Sometimes it's like, man, those are two very, very pretty people that I'm watching on screen getting it on, and like, great, like that's awesome. But like this to me, like it genuinely felt like as impactful as like the final sequence in episode 9 or the Jinx launching the rocket launcher at the end of season 1. Like there's so many moments in this series that were like as impactful to me as this, which is kind of crazy. Is that that's not usually the case for this sort of thing.
Yeah, I think like I saw like a meme before Act 3 dropped that was like me explaining why a K-Vi sex scene is integral to the story. And you know what? Like it is.
It was.
Like
Yeah.
it is though. Like it like it feels so important that this was like here. And like it's just nice to see this like culmination, because like that relationship is so important to the show. So it's just nice to see that like celebrated in this way. And like yeah, you're saying, Klein, like the intentionality, like with the fiddling of the buckle, and like they're like giggling to each other, like it's just really, really well handled.
The way the camera like zooms in on Caitlyn, like it's slowly zooming on Caitlyn's face as you see kind of Vi's head like going downward. It's weird, like breaking this down shot for shot. But she looks directly at the camera, and like you have this like it's this moment of just like pure like pleasure, I guess, and then just like, and it just cuts to black. Like I thought that was so well done. I don't know if I've ever broken down like the actual cinematography of a sex scene, but like this was super well shot.
Well, when you think about it, they're not actors. They have to animate everything. Yeah. And that's what I think really is so amazing about this, is just that like the care that went into it. Like they are so real, these two people, like just having this moment. And yeah, like every single second, it's just like it feels authentic, and it's so huge because like obviously representation in this space, there's so little. So to have been given as much as we did, it was just like really admirable, and also like they get it. Like King Princess is playing, like
Oh, the music is incredible.
it's so yeah, it was just so worth the wait. So yeah, really glad that they were able to bring their storyline around to have that because I think we all would have felt a little bit cheated if we didn't. So
I'm sure it was
that was
also
great.
worth the wait for them.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Definitely, yeah.
All right, that's everything in episode 8. We got a lot to break down. Oh, actually, I did want to say one last thing. Everybody, once again, has had a glow up. How did they make them hotter again?
Mhm.
Jace looks amazing.
Daddy
Mel looks
Jace,
obviously
man.
great.
Daddy
Like
Jake.
Vi's hair has changed.
Yes,
Caitlin's got the
longer.
ponytail. Like they all look like fire. So props to them. Okay, let's get to the finale. A lot happens here. I guess we'll just go through from the beginning. And things in the last episode start with Echo coming back and Jinx having escaped. We see them there together, and Jinx is ready to like she's basically gonna kill herself and tries to multiple times. And Echo is able to use his time machine to stop that from happening. And thanks to his interaction that he had with Powder in the other universe, like he knows exactly what to say to her, which I thought was really nice. And he basically talks her off the ledge. Well, let's just talk about that because it was such a short scene, but it was so impactful. Like just using even the time travel element, and then just like seeing Echo, who's like, if she's not the Powder that he was just with, but she's still there, and she's clearly in a lot of pain. We did have that shot, like you said, Klein, of the hair, and there's a moment I think where they draw it all in pencil. So it's kind of like the mind scribbles, but calmer, and just representing Jinx's mental state. There is so much just in this small amount.
Even the song that was like playing in the background, I think it's called Wasteland. I don't know the artist. I think I'm not too sure who she is, but the song playing in the background was like it really amped up how she was feeling at the time, and I felt like I could feel what Jinx was feeling through the screen, even though it was like such a short scene, and you really only see like maybe like less than a minute of that happening. But I think it was like so beautifully done, and it was like super impactful. And then Echo pops up, and it's Echo kind of. I think he had a line where he was like, "We're always dancing," or "It's always dancing."
Always a dance with you,
or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh God, I'm in pain." I thought it was just beautiful.
This is a different Echo, right? Like this is an Echo who has he now knows that this version of Powder in his world, the other one that he'd just come from, it like that version of Powder is still in there somewhere. And like I think that in episode 7 we kind of get the mission statement, the thesis, if you want to call it that, of Arcane, which is what Powder says to him, is sometimes to take a leap forward, you have to leave a few things behind. And that is just echoing it, for lack of a better term, in Echo's head for the rest of this series. And I think that it defines really the rest of the series and the series as a whole. But like when he shows up here, he's like, he doesn't necessarily know what she's lost, but to have gotten to this point, he knows she has lost something. And he is just like, we cannot take you off the board. Like you are so important to this that like for us to move forward, we need to leave those other things behind. And it was effective. That's why I've written down like this was just effective. Like it was just it moved me. Him coming in like this and saving her, quote unquote.
Yeah, it just proves that Echo's the MVP of this episode. Like he's just so like important, integral.
Shout out Echo.
He's just great. I mean, like I briefly mentioned like earlier, he like the creative uses of time travel, because like time travel is such an overused like trope, but I think the way they kind of utilize it here, where it is just limited to 4 seconds, they can get really creative with like how they utilize that. And I just think that was such a smart way of using it in this scene, and it leads to such a like emotional like resolution between these two, and I really loved it.
And you got to remember, like, this is the first time Echo has seen Jinx since the bridge. Like, it feels like obviously we as the audience have seen so much of her, we know that she's changed, but he doesn't know that. So he's going purely off what he's just experienced in this with her in this other universe, and the way that that's changed his mindset, I thought was so lovely. Also, a small note is that, I don't know if you guys noticed, but like she's trying to originally blow herself up with a grenade. And then when Echo arrives, she's like, no, I'm not going to use the grenade. I'm going to fall now. Because she doesn't want to kill him with her, which I was like, whoa, that's growth. So we kind of cut from this straight into like, they're going to war. There is a bit of a counter where they're like, we just got to stop Victor from getting to this place. That's the plan. And then we're in the war. Things are happening all over the place. It's like Helm's Deep. Like Vi's carrying someone to rescue them. Caitlyn's out there snipering people. Mel's like telling people what to do. It's awesome. Jace is down in the basement, like trying to protect the Hex Gate. There's so much that happens here. This is kind of a battle scene that is, we haven't seen this scale before in Arcane, and obviously it is the finale. They've got to go big. And I just think they really rose to the challenge, just even in the way that every single character like had meaning. Like even the ones you didn't even know the name of, like you felt for them when they were dying on both sides. Loris, R.I.P. my dude.
Our guy, show back up. Rest in peace.
I take back everything I said about him. He was very meaningful.
This scene for me, like, you know, we've had really awesome action scenes in the show and they've all felt very like personal, but this is just like, this is basically the MOBA scene. This is the multiplayer online battle arena scene. This is what League of Legends like is. So to see that like actually like play out, and there's like the scale of it, I thought was really cool. And it's like, it is a lot to keep up with because it is just like wall to wall action. Like this thing happens and then this thing happens and there's other crazy, these guys show up, and it's like the way they kind of weave that through and still make it very like readable by cutting between these different like action set pieces, whether it's like, you know, Bessa's doing her thing with Kate and Mel, or you know, Jinx and Vi have got their own thing going on, or Echo's got something going on. I thought they paced it all really well and still made it feel all very like engaging and fun. Yeah, it's brutal. Like a lot of I think we talked about it last week with Zach. Like, you know, Loris, like what's he gonna do? And
Our
so
guy.
what he does, he shows up to die. Just
Loris. It has a great dynamic, this battle. You actually sit there and you can feel like that at any given point, anybody could win. Like sometimes the Piltover side is like on the front foot, and then the other side, the Noxans have the upper hand, and it has a great flow to it. So I thought that was really cool. One of the main things that's happening in this battle is that the Noxians sort of like begin their plan to get Victor to the Hex Gate, and they kind of bring out this big dude. I don't know how else to call him, but to carry
big
him,
man.
to bring Victor's orb thing into the Hex Gate. God, you have to watch the show to understand what I'm saying.
This was the moment where I was like, Tom, Overwatch TV show, you're literally moving the payload. Like this is
yeah.
Oh man.
There's a great moment here where I guess Caitlyn's plan is to blow up Victor's kind of house, orb, cocoon, whatever it is.
Yeah, egg.
Anyway, and yeah, like they're enacting this plan. They've got gas. They've knocked everyone out, and they plant the bomb, and it doesn't go off because someone's just put a nail in it. I told you guys that Maddie was a fucking snake. I was
right. Can we talk about Maddie? Okay.
Oh my God.
The moment when they get everyone on their knees and Maddie I wrote down Maddie 4 exclamation points, you son of a bitch double agent. And then she has the gall to say, I did appreciate your warmth. Are you kidding me? Are you joking? Gun pointed at Caitlyn's head. I wanted to stand up and leave. I was like, are you I was not necessarily on to Maddie. I vouched for her. I was like, she wants love too. You got to get it where you can, whatever. What? Like, oh, ruthless.
Yeah. This is
so mad.
She goes out though also, when she does fire the gun.
Karma.
Oh man.
Yeah, well, there's
so
like
good.
She's added to TFT, which is like another Riot game, and like one of her like her marketing things, like the phrase they wrote right is she's not afraid to shoot her shot, and someone wrote like she shoots her shot all right. I mean,
it literally goes. I love the sound, bang, ting, and then just like she flies backwards,
and she like falls onto Caitlyn, which I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Not like I'm not like glorifying her death or anything. Like it was very. It was very satisfying, but I was just like, oh Jesus, that was brutal.
Lauren, I would say the same thing. But that warmth line, I was kind of cheering. I was kind of like, okay, you know what? She didn't just turn your back on the person you potentially loved, but you also like that was ruthless. That was just rude. I don't know.
Kind of love that it wasn't just like a shield on Caitlyn though. It was like shielded around Maddie, so like no matter where she shot, it would have gone there.
Yeah.
Here's the
like,
thing
oh,
though.
bye, Maddie.
Do we think that Maddie was always a traitor, or do we think that she turned after Caitlyn stopped paying attention to her? I'm of the mind that she was always a traitor, that she was on Ambessa's side from the beginning. But I've seen some people who don't think that.
When Ambessa says the professional entanglements line earlier in the season, that's to do with Vi, right?
And that was
No,
to do with Maddie at the
That's to do
time.
Maddie
It
again.
was to do with Maddie at the time? Yeah, she was the traitor the whole time, for sure. For sure. I take it all back. I'm deleting last week's episode, actually. I don't want to vouch for this cretin.
We'll just redact it.
This is the number one
Oh,
Maddie
God.
hater podcast now.
So there was that sequence, and then we do get a really cool battle with Ambessa and Mel and Caitlyn. And I just wrote down, yeah, the girls, they're teaming up. They're going after Ambessa. They both have trauma from or issues with her that they need to work out. And this scene is like insane, like because Ambessa's a force to be reckoned with, and like Caitlyn at one point gets stabbed, and so she's kind of handicapped, and obviously Mel's just learning how to use her powers, so it is like a fight to the end. You do not know who's going to win. And basically Mel enacts this plan, which is to get Ambessa to a point where they can unleash the like Black Rose on her, and then the Black Rose basically handle her. I guess with their powers they can kill her. I wasn't really sure how that went out because I thought their powers were mind only. So, but she does die after this. Did I miss something?
I don't think so.
No, I don't know. I don't.
I don't really
Nope.
have the answer there.
She dies essentially, but before she dies, she tells Mel that she's got the spirit of the wolf. She's a Medada, so that's kind of what Mel has been wanting this entire time. It's like she keeps being told she's too merciful. She doesn't have what it takes to be a Medada, and then she kind of gets that confirmation from her mother before she dies. Yeah, but at what cost? Any comments on this little fight scene?
I love this fight. I thought it was so sick. I mean, it's cool because like Caitlyn traditionally like a sniper. To see her just try to go like with these weapons and at first because she gets stabbed and like I don't know why I thought this, but I was like, okay, she's been stabbed, but she's gonna kick her ass. She's gonna like do really well. She gets messed up, and like in the best way. But yeah, it's just like a really gritty and grubby, like horrible fight between these three, and it was really cool. And like they do the Mission Impossible 2 thing where Ambessa's got the knife to Caitlyn's eye. And I thought that was just like, oh, the tension is, oh god, it's horrible. Yeah,
And she does.
cool.
She loses her eye.
She does, yeah. Tragic.
Brutal.
Very tragic.
How dare they?
I don't like the eye stuff. Anytime the needles, the needle in your eye, spear in your eye, anything like that in media, no thanks. That's like the number one thing that you can make me squirm with.
We have also a really cool, I guess like Zach was saying last week, there is a bit of an Avengers Endgame moment where Jinx and Echo show up, and Jinx has made this awesome like airship out of her underground kind of lair, and the music is playing. She shows up and starts dominating. It's awesome. Echo's on his hoverboards and they get involved. Really cool scene.
I was surprised because we kept saying like, oh, he has to come back. Last week we were like, he has to come back. There's stuff from the trailers. Surprised how much from the trailers were in this episode. Like there was so much stuff from like this final battle in the original Arcane Season 2 trailer, which is sick. And we had no idea. I loved their entrance though. Get me the Jinx with the hood up and the shark teeth like on the hood. That's dope. I'm like, man, you still got, cool. I know we've got some emotional stuff going on, but we can do one or two more like cool things.
Yeah, they got to start selling those hoodies in stores. I need one.
Mm-hmm. True. Can I just like, we got some just like breaking news that'll go very quickly. Tom Drew, Arcane's Mel Medarda is coming to League of Legends in 2025 as a playable character. There you go.
I can't believe we literally said that in this episode.
I know.
Oh my god.
There it is.
Yeah, 2025 is the year of League for me. I guess I'm gonna get into League, guys. That's crazy.
Yeah, Tom.
It's crazy.
Crazy. Okay. Also in this battle, basically the Noxian's plan, which was to get Victor through the hex gates, that was all a ruse. Victor is actually not inside his cocoon thing. He's already down there at the hex gates with Jace. He reveals his new robotic kind of form. It's pretty close to his League look, no, not 100%, but it's probably the closest we're going to get. And so he's down there. And then at the same time, he starts to activate his powers, and like all of the human robot things that he has created start to get involved in the battle, and that's when the tide starts to turn against the people of Piltover. It's like, Vi gets chased by a whole horde of them, has to like jump onto Jinx's airship, and they crash, and oh my god, so much happens. And they also have revived Warwick as one of them, and he's kind of like even more powerful than he was, so he gets stuck into a fight with Jinx and Vi, and so it's them teaming up to fight their dad, which was kind of tragic because obviously earlier they teamed up to save their dad, and he's not there anymore. So all this is going on. There's a great zero gravity fight between them all, which is really cool. At the same time that Victor and Jace are fighting, and there's just a lot going on at this point. It's intercutting, and it's like really, really cool. Stop me at any point if anyone wants to say anything.
I just want to like make a note here. In the 2 seasons of Arcane, how many amazing action sequences have we seen? A lot. And they're mostly cut to music. Something I noted is in a lot of these like final action sequences, it's just the action noise. There is no music at all, which I found like very, very like almost bold of Arcane, because like they could have very easily cut it to some emotional songs, and there are moments of that in here, but like this final sequence with like Jinx and Vi and Warwick fighting is just all you hear is the hits.
Yeah, it sounds really cool because I guess they're in a zero gravity space, so sound is different. I thought that was just such a nice touch. Basically, when Victor reaches the height of his powers, he starts to connect everybody. This is including those ones who he hasn't already touched, to this big like hive mind. He kind of explains at some point that his plan is for everybody to join this glorious evolution, because basically human emotions are the root of suffering. Humans are imperfect. He thinks he can make them all perfect by forcing them to join this like unified kind of space. And Jace is obviously against this. He's like, no, people deserve the chance to choose. So they're having this argument, and Jace is also kind of about to be taken up by Victor's powers. But Echo, MVP, comes to the rescue, use his Z drive to get in there and rewind time just long enough to get through the defenses and like throw the drive at Victor, which kind of like breaks his spell and gives Jace a chance to talk to him. And this is where we get a great twist where we learn that when Jace was in the future alternate reality, he was talking to this hooded figure, and that hooded figure was a future Victor, who I think this was the case, but in that universe, this Victor had achieved his glorious evolution, and look at what it had become. Like, it was horrible. And so he's like, no, you need to convince me. You're the only person who can convince me that there's no perfection. There's only the end of progress. So that's what Jace does. He has to go and like convince Victor of this, and basically Victor seeing this makes him realize like the error of his ways. He has like, I don't know, a redemption, and basically they team up together. They decide, we're going to end this, we're going to end Hextech. And this is like an insane animation sequence where they kind of are in this cosmic space. They like link hands and destroy it all, and then they also die, I guess, or maybe not. What do we think of that?
Partners till the end. Like, it really like Victor could have just done it by himself, but Jace was like, no, we're in this together, we're partners. I think Jace also said this like when Jace was saying something about you're not broken, your imperfections like make you who you are. I was like, oh god. Like, and I see things on like Twitter where that people are like shipping them. So is this like canon for them now? Like, is this a ship? Don't know. But I thought it was a really nice way to kind of end their like arc together, that they started together and they ended it together, and I was like, this is nice.
The lengths he'll go for his boyfriend, like he'll just do anything. I did see a quote from, and this is the same thing from the Heimerdinger thing, so take a grain of salt, but
the alleged source.
Yeah, apparently the intention wasn't to make it romantic, but I mean, look,
They
they
hug.
they hug. They look. There's a lot of like evidence. I feel like they either way you could take it. Like whether you ship them or not. But there's clearly like a love there. And I think it's interesting to me that this is the emotional like resolution of the episode. I really thought that it was going to be Jinx and Vi, and that was where we're going to kind of close things off of. And that we do get a bit of that, but this is kind of like how things kind of wrap up with the kind of conflict of it all. And it was unexpected, but I still thought it was like a really smart way of doing it. I thought like it was nice to see this like them kind of reconnect. And also like let's look aside of that, the visual, like you kind of touched on, Lauren, within this kind of space, especially the one of Victor in his kind of full robot form. It looks like, I don't know, like an Elden
Oh
Ring boss or
yeah.
something.
Oh
It looks
yeah.
amazing. I've never seen it. Looks crazy. And if you're watching this and you've not seen the show for some reason, go find that visual, because I'll probably put it on screen for the YouTube, but it just looks gorgeous. So yeah, they went nuts with the animation in this part of the episode specifically. It's so cool.
I love to take that image of Victor and like show it to 20. When was the first season? 2020. So show it to 2020
Oh
Klein
god.
and be like, hey, like this is gonna be in the same show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved all like the ethereal Victor stuff visually was just like so cool. It really felt like the first time we got like Gwen's universe in Across the Spider-Verse, from like this feels so different than anything else that we've seen in this, than anything else I've ever seen. Like just like it's like this like beautiful, like almost like watercolored kind of like splotchy, semi-transparent, really unique, cool feeling.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I think so much time must have been spent on that sequence, and it just so paid off because, like you say, that is the big emotional crux of the story at this point. But let's not forget, Vi and Jinx are still in this, and basically, when they are freed from Victor's brainwashing, mind control, whatever it is, they find themselves like on a perilous ledge. And Vi takes a minute to sort of like, I guess, mourn Warwick because he's dead now, and like that was their dad, and this is what's left of him. But he's not dead. He's alive. He reanimates and he starts attacking. The platform that they're on is like getting less stable, and so Jinx is kind of nearby, and she just like gets involved, pushes them both off the ledge, and Vi manages to grab Jinx, but then Warwick manages to grab Jinx as well, and so they're being weighed down. And like Jinx at this point knows that she's never going to give up on her. She's never going to let her go. So Jinx makes the choice. She like smashes Vi's gauntlet and like lets them both drop. And as she's falling, she like has a moment of peace, I suppose. And she just like lets off the grenade that, it kills them all. I can't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they're all dead. I love the always with you, sis. Like just like if it wasn't going to tear your heart out before, it certainly is now. Something I saw very interesting. The TikTok journalists are out there doing the putting in the work, so I don't have to. Sitting at the breakfast table this morning, I saw this. This sequence perfectly mimics, shot for shot, the very first Powder jumping off the roof in season 1, right in episode 1, where Vi grabs her, and like the shot lengths, the time we focus on each character going back and forth, it is exactly the same. But in this one, she lets go, and in the other one, it's always with you, sis. I pull you up.
They're so
that is art. Like that's poetry right there. It rhymes. It's so good.
Yeah. Well, it's it's such a.
But is she dead?
Well, that's what I was going to bring up. Like another way that mirrors that first episode, we see a blimp later in the episode. Yeah. Jinx talks about always wanting to ride a blimp. In this scene, there's like a blue streak just before the explosion. I don't know. I think she might still be out there. I think she's still alive. But I think they handled it well enough that you could interpret it either way. So I feel like that doesn't cheapen the kind of emotional moment that you have of like essentially Vi losing Jinx yet again, and Vanda, which is like a double whammy again. But yeah, I thought like just that whole I can't even like talk about it. It's like it's so like well handled. It's so good.
The way she does it too is like adds another level where it isn't Vi letting go. It's her like her turning off the gauntlet and making her drop is like
Brutal.
it is her choice. Like she knows that she's brought it almost changes the relationship. Like she feels like the older sister by the end of it. Whereas I think a lot of us thought Vi was gonna have to sacrifice herself to save her like ailing baby sister sort of thing. And it does feel like she is the older, more mature, like, no, I'm doing this for you. I've decided that I have to end this.
With Vi, I also thought in the previous episode she said that something like in the prison cell about how she's always losing people, she's always making the wrong choice. And I think this kind of like echoed in this too, where she like lingered a bit too long with like Vander, and she could have been safe. She could have like not had like Jinx kind of like save her and die. But it's kind of like echoing in like all of her action. She's always losing all the people she loves because she's always just caring that bit too much. And it's kind of painful to know that like Vi and Jinx are always losing each other in all of the universes. Like they need to lose each other to kind of like continue forward. Like that's painful. Like that was hard to like watch. And you know, Jinx has always wanted to kind of like die at the hands of her sister, and she kind of did in a way. And yeah, it's just all, I'm just in pain. It's just ouch. I'm hurting.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I was fine in all 3 episodes until this scene. I was like, I had to pause it. But I felt pretty good afterwards because then we do get a scene where Caitlyn, like if the war has ended and Caitlyn's looking at her like schematics of the hex gate, and there are like air ducts that could lead to an exit. So she's alive. You can't convince me otherwise. She's out there living her best life, and that's how I choose to believe it. But yeah, really tragic end, particularly when it's those 2 siblings has just been like the heart of this entire show, and to see them not have a happy ending was really sad, but the way they did it was just really, really effective. Some other resolutions that come after the big battle, we have the Piltover Council like now adding members from Zorn, so Savika is on there. I was a little bit surprised that Savika basically wasn't doing anything in these 3 episodes. She didn't even have a line. So I do think that's
Showed
another
up for
case.
the battle.
Yeah, I just think that was another case where it's like you could have had you needed more episodes to like resolve her arc. But yeah, so that's happened. Vi and Kate still together, which we love, and Echo alone, really sad. And then also Singed has, I guess, figured out his final evolution and manages to bring back his daughter, who we talked about a little bit last week, as Oriana, the Clockwork lady from League of Legends. So that's just a very quick shot at the end, which I guess could set up some future storylines if they ever want to go there. And then one other shot that I want to point out is that there's, well, firstly, Mel. Mel goes off with the Noxians. She's, I guess, their new leader. But also we get this raven that goes to the top of the roof and kind of pecks away, and it seems to find like a Hextech crystal. So maybe not all of the crystals were gone. And it's a 3-eyed raven, which is significant because there's a character in League of Legends called Swain. And I think he either has a 3-eyed raven or it's linked to him somehow. So I think that's a massive call out for where they may want to go next, because he's in Noxus and has a big rivalry with the Black Rose. So I think that could be, they're laying some seeds for certain things to potentially happen if they have more. But how do we feel about the end of this all? Are we satisfied with everything that happened? Is this the finale we were hoping for?
I think so. Yeah. I think for the most part. Before I
Don't
get to
sound
that,
so sure, Tom.
before I get to that quickly, I just want to say, Singed, what a freaking bastard, man. He did the most horrendous shit this whole time.
And he got a happy ending.
And he got the best ending. He, like, I don't know what message that says, but he's just, I hate him. He sucks. What a terrible dude. Anyway, no, I think like for the most part, like, I'm pretty satisfied with this show and how they wrapped it up. There are like we've talked about, there are moments where there could have been some more time to breathe, and like we could have expanded on some story elements a bit more. But I think I'd rather be sitting here, wanting more out of it than sitting here like feeling like, oh, we didn't get enough of this, or like we didn't we got all the things that we needed. I feel like the Kate, Jinx, and Vi stuff was handled like effectively. I think the Victor and Jace stuff was handled effectively. Maybe some of the other storylines may have suffered because of that, but I think like the important stuff was handled extremely well, and the stuff that even wasn't handled as well as that stuff, I still think like is handled well because it's Arcane. So I think for the most part, I'm pretty satisfied with what we got here.
No, I feel the same. I feel pretty good. I mean, like, yeah, it was bed rotting after it was over, just because it was over, and I have nothing left to watch except just to rewatch it. But I feel pretty good with where like Vi and Caitlin ended up. I feel like Jinx's like development and like her growth was really great. I mean, like Echo, that's the only sad part I feel like for me. Like they had that scene with him like on the ledge, literally mirroring the scene with him and Powder, and he was just alone, so that sucked. But I feel like everything else kind of like wrapped up really nicely, and like Caitlin has a cool eye patch now, like sick. She's like a hot pirate. Like, yeah, I think everything else was pretty good.
Like dirt under your fingernails. Oh,
Oh.
that line got me.
Apparently it took them like 3 days or something to come up with that line.
Oh, it's perfect. It's the name of the episode.
Yeah.
I think that I am satisfied with everyone's stories by the end of it. I'm satisfied with where we ended with everyone. I'm even satisfied with all of the beats leading into really. It makes sense how we got to the ending for each one of these people. I wish we'd gotten a bit more time. I really do.
Yeah, I feel the same. But I wonder if that's also selfish of me, just because I want more.
Yeah.
And yeah, perhaps this was always the plan, and they could have stretched it out. But no, they told the story that they wanted to tell. They established a baseline which can now be built upon, hopefully. And yeah, they landed the plane at the end of the day. They tied everything up. I definitely feel satisfied. I feel emotionally traumatized. So everything has gone according to plan. And to be honest, like not to get, too like deep and meaningful about it, but I just feel really privileged that I was alive when this show was on TV, because I haven't seen anything like it, and I think these shows don't come around very often. So really like massive props to the Arcane team, because they've created something really special.
I can't wait to see what this studio does next. Like whatever they do, this house style that they've somehow developed, like if it's more League of Legends, I'm there. If it's anything else, I'm there. Like this show feels like an impossibility. Just like the fact that it looks as good as it does, sounds as good as it does, the story is as good as it is, the characters are as amazing as they are, the performances are incredible, and it all marries together in this amazing mix. Whereas there are other shows out there where it has some of those elements, but not the other ones. And this just, to me, like it feels impossible. Like I can't believe that it works and looks and sounds like it does.
Yeah, it's a triumph. Like it really is a triumph. Like, and I think they're working on the thing that they've announced that they're working on is a movie called like Penelope of Sparta, which is like a Greek mythology inspired thing, which is completely like
sign me up.
It's completely like unrelated to League and stuff, but like I'm so here. Like Fortitia's proven themselves with Arcane, so I have full faith that movie's going to be amazing. So yeah, can't wait to see it.
It was good. And the end of the episode had the end written in Jinx's handwriting. So feels like she's still alive. She's out there.
She personally wrote that to tell us.
Can I ask, like, do we ever see these characters? I could turn on League right now and see these characters. Do we ever see this version of these characters ever again?
So I know that I think Christian Link said that like they have plans if they do their future Arcane or like shows in this world, like they have plans to continue some stories. So I think there's like definitely a chance we can get some appearances, some cameos. I feel like certain characters are done. I think this is where they're going to leave them. They don't need to like string it along as much as we would like them to see them again. But I do think certain characters may appear again. I feel like Mel is probably really promising to like maybe be in another series or be a main character. But I think perhaps Piltover, they've left that behind now because they've told that story.
Yeah. Like we kind of said in previous episodes, that they've got so many champions that they need to get to. So I feel like I'm satisfied leaving these characters behind. So if we don't see like Jinx Kate Vi again, I'm pretty happy like that they
No.
got this story. Like it's I think it's fine. We can see a new thing. It's nice to see a new thing for me. But for sure, I think Mel totally makes sense to see again. And maybe a couple others, maybe Singe, that dick. But I don't know. I think some of the other ones, yeah. I think we can put a bow on them and leave them to live out their days in Piltover.
Hey, it's like Jinx says, she'll always be with us.
Yeah.
Oh.
Indeed.
Stop it, guys. Like tearing up. Oh man, that's good. Arcane's awesome. Do we have anything else, Lauren? Is that it?
That's everything that happened, unless anybody wants to like have a bit of a eulogy here.
I don't know. Any parting thoughts?
It's the best. Arcane's the
It is
best.
the best. It's season 1. Okay, can I ask this question?
Okay.
Is season 1 better than season 2?
That is a good question.
I mean, like the moment you find out Powder turns into Jinx, like that was like a different feeling. Like that was.
That's
like...
what every person I've pitched this show to, I say, give it the first 3 episodes. Watch the first 3 episodes, and if you like, I have not found somebody that doesn't get to the end of that and go, I need to find out like what happens next.
Yeah.
I think that season 1 is perhaps more refined and like I can't pick any faults with it, to be honest. It's perfect. Whereas I think there's a few things like we just talked about, small things. I don't think the show is any less good because of it, but I think perhaps it isn't as refined as season 1 in season 2.
I think this for me feels like, and this might be a weird comparison, but it feels like God of War to God of War Ragnarok. Like God of War, first God of War, like it's streamlined. It's like we're going to this place, we're going to end in this place. And then God of War Ragnarok is very ambitious. It like has a lot more going on, and it's still a really incredible game. But there's a lot to it, and there's more you can like kind of fault with it. I think that's similar with season 2 of Arcane. Like there's so much more ambition. There's so much more scope. They want to do all this different stuff, and like they nail it on like pretty much all accounts. But there are some little moments and things you can kind of wish were a little bit better or differently handled. But I still think both are incredible. I think probably for me, and I'd have to rewatch season 2 like down the line to see how it holds up and stuff. But I think season 1 still probably is better overall. But having said that, like they're both amazing. They're both pretty good.
I think season 2 for me had more elevated highs, but it was very lackluster. Whereas season 1 was just consistently amazing. With like season 1 for me, the ending of season 1 is like the only thing where I was like really, really just could not control myself, devastated. I think season 2 has like more of those like emotional bangs, but I would say that season 1's probably better.
I think the great thing is that this is one of those shows where every time you rewatch it, you'll get something new out of it. So just in that way, it's going to be around forever. It has that longevity, which is so great.
And thank you, Lauren, for making us rewatch season 1, because like we said it on the recap, but like I loved season 1 when I watched it. It is now like one of my favorite TV shows ever because of rewatching it, and like and really like, oh my gosh, like I didn't 100% appreciate like just what it was. And I think season 2 does an amazing job of wrapping it up. And if you're listening and haven't watched it, I mean, thank you. Maybe you just like the sound of our voices, I don't know, but like I will continue to champion this show until the end of time, because I know so many people that just, if they gave it a chance, would absolutely adore it. And yeah.
Arcane month doesn't stop here. Arcane month is forever.
Yeah, Arcane month is not a time, it's a people, Tom, you see.
Arcane month, it'll always be with you.
I just want to quickly shout out just like one line we didn't mention, that just the writing of this show. She oinked poison in your ear and you just ate it. I feel like that's what people do, like they listening to our podcast every week, is we're just oinking poison in their ears and they're just eating it up.
What a sell.
But what did you like? What did you not like about Arcane season 2? You can let us know on social media. Please keep listening. I know that we've seen a big spike in listeners and viewers with Arcane. I hope you stick around. I hope you like what you found. We are ongoing, like just because Arcane is done doesn't mean we're going to be done. We're coming into a very busy part of the year. When it comes to the podcast, we've got Game of the Year to talk about, the Game Awards. Then when we pick up in 2025, it's going to be predictions, talking about the games, doing Fantasy Critic again, all sorts of fun stuff like that. So please follow along with us. You can over on Twitter at @controller_club. There may or may not be a Blue Sky coming very soon as well. I've figured some things out, and so I think we're going to be able to get that up very quickly. At Controller Club Pod on Instagram and at controller.club on TikTok. Also, if you are listening to the show, you can watch us now. We are on YouTube. We have a video version of the podcast going out each and every week, edited by Tom Drew. Thank you so much for doing that, Tom. You can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/@controller_club. We have the latest episodes going up over there. Our best of segments from all of our episodes. We're putting up edited versions of us talking about the Switch 2 and doing all sorts of crazy things like that. And then we also put up our YouTube shorts, which go up on TikTok and Instagram Reels as well. Please rate, review us. If you are new to the show, leave us a comment, give us 5 stars. It really helps. It's just the algorithm. You're constantly fighting against it. And anything you can do to help, it really does help out. Okay. Shantelle, where can people find you? Where do you want to direct them? Thank you so much for joining us. What do you have going on in your life that you want to shout out to the people?
Oh God, this feels like a Hot Ones end intro. Love it.
Camera here. Roll out the red carpet.
I am on Twitter, or X. I'm still going to call it Twitter. I'm on Twitter at SAHNTELLE. So just a jumbled up name of my name. And I write sometimes, so might see some of the things I write on there.
Fantastic. Awesome. Are you looking at Blue Sky? The sky's blue. It's really good over here.
Honestly, I think I might have to convert to Blue Sky. So catch me probably with the same username on there. If I get one, I will get one.
Awesome. And thanks again, Shantelle, for joining us. I know that it is very early in Australia, but you made time. You had to for Arcane. So thank you. Thank you a whole bunch. Lauren, where can people keep up with you? We'll go to you next.
You can find me at lrouse19 on the socials. Still clinging to Twitter at this point. I'm making the shift to Blue Sky slowly. And if you want to read more of my thoughts or recaps, I've recapped every single episode of Arcane over on Game Rant. I've been losing sleep over writing them, so go check them out over there. That and many more Arcane articles that I'll be posting on Game Rant.
Excellent. Yeah, and if you haven't checked out any of Lauren's recaps yet, go back and read them if you want to. If you haven't even watched the new episodes, or you want to just a quick refresh over the next couple of weeks, she does amazing recap work over on Game Rant. Tom Drew, what do you have going on? Do you have any Arcane art coming? Where can people find that if you did?
I do indeed. If you want to continue the Arcane celebrations, you can find some Arcane themed artwork that I posted at Tom Drew Art on Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. I'm on Blue Sky. I don't know how much I'm going to use it. I feel like I don't use, or I'm trying not to use social media as much as I used to do, but I'll post artwork every now and then. So if you want to see Jinx cause him some havoc, go find it there.
Fantastic. You can keep up with me everywhere. I'm at The Kleinfelt, TheKleinFelt, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram. Want to quickly shout out, didn't mention it earlier, this month we do here on the podcast a monthly video game book club. This month's game is Cult of the Lamb next week. So if you are listening to this as it comes out, and next week, I think it's December 1st, we will be reviewing Cult of the Lamb and doing a full deep dive discussion. So if you haven't started yet, it's 15 hours. You got maybe some time before then. But also that content, it's not milk. It doesn't get spoiled. It will not go bad. So you can come back to it, play the game, and hear our thoughts. We'll do a full spoiler deep dive into that, just like we did with Arcane. That's going to wrap up this episode of Controller Club and Controller Club's Arcane month. It's been a whole lot of fun. Thank you so much for listening. Now, let's get gaming.